Hey guys, so as promised, we're back with Thomas Forsyth, Rory Capel, Mason Allen, Peter Walters, and Dr. Megan Ma, the vet, to bring you the second half of the podcast. Let's dive back in. Do you say you're the chairperson of the English MGA?
Yeah.
And last week we were also talking about how you're now sort of involved with the selections for the English team.
Yeah.
And Rory reckons that things have been much better since you've taken over. And I was just wondering what you've changed since you've taken over and sort of the criteria that you sort of choose your team by.
Thanks, Rory, first of all. That's a compliment, I think.
Watch last week's podcast for my revelation about how I found England in the earlier years when I rode for them. Because,
I don't know, like, it's changed, obviously, over the years. I mean, if you want me to go way back, I mean, it used to be Great Britain, and they would pick, like, one from England South, one from the North, one from Wales, one from Scotland. And then I think another one from one of the regions, basically. Mm-hmm. But then obviously it turned into England, Wales, Scotland, like separate countries. When I first got in the team myself, they picked 3 from the South and 2 from the North. And then the year after they would pick 3 from the North and 2 from the South. But at the time it was only open. There was never any younger age groups in anything like Europeans, Worlds, whatever. There weren't many younger age groups when I started anyway. So it was basically an open as it was. But but I think over the years, obviously they changed that. And then we were at times where we had to wear a band on our leg. Then we had to paint numbers on the horse's bum. Then and there was all different ways of trying to do it. And I guess I kind of watched a lot of that, but it's not just me. Like the whole committee, we decided as a committee, you were in the team, weren't you, Rory, in Belgium?
Yeah, that was
the first year I trained the Open, I think. 2018 was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I went to the Europeans at Le Bond, and then Belgium was the world teams. And when we were selecting, there were something like 26 people that we whittled down to a group to go to this trial at Dallas Burston. So we ran them in teams, and we did like 2 sessions in the day. And it was a lot of people. There were 3 selectors and me as the trainer. Now I was allowed to pick the 5th rider and the reserve, but I wasn't allowed to pick any of the other 4, even though I was training. So I was like, okay, well, so I was running around the arena telling them what the selectors wanted them to do, swap orders, blah, blah, blah. We were in the pub at Dallas after talking about it. The selectors themselves had a blazing row, and it all went a bit. Anyway, it was fine. It also, I don't overly agree on the trial system, I think, probably because that was what happened. And we ended up. So people, someday you could have someone that has a really good trial, obviously, and they deserve to get in. Or you could have someone that you think, well, they're by far the best rider, quite clearly, but they've had a terrible day and they're not in, and someone else is. I don't know. There's different ways of picking it. Different countries pick things in different ways, whatever, obviously. But I just thought to myself, well, and then obviously I went in as chairman or whatever, and we talked about it, and we decided to, I think my main thing is that I felt England didn't need to screw themselves over, if you know what I mean. Because from the IMGA point of view, if you want to send the best 5 riders, in my opinion, like as a group with the trainer or whatever, or 6 riders if you've got the reserve. And I always felt that because of our rules, say a pony went lame, rider number 3's pony went lame, then we're like, no, you're out. Well, what if they have a second pony that's pretty much as good as their best one? Why would you ditch them out, just because they didn't put their name forward on that? And it was always, actually, little Leah could do this now, or Fred could do it now, even though they didn't put their name forward. Well, if they're good enough, then they shouldn't have to put their name forward, in my opinion. What other sport do you go to, like rugby, football, whatever? You pick the best from that country. They don't have to put their name forward and say, I want to play for England, do they? And that's what I felt needed to change. So then we wanted to pick a team. it has, I will admit, this year we have had to ask people because of the cost of Denmark and like what we can envisage is what's going to happen with the Europeans. It's going to be expensive because of Brexit. We have had to go and say to people, would you like to ride out there? This is XXX, this is what we think it's going to cost. It may be more, it might be less. I don't know, but we've given them a guide. And we've had a really good response, to be honest, already, people wanting to do it. So, and that's really great because we do want to send teams, but I do think that, going back to your question, I just felt that we needed to take some of the rules out of it in a way for England so that we could, and I hope it kind of worked. The proof was in the pudding slightly because the year after we won the Europeans and the Worlds. So, and I think then in the younger age groups, we won the Worlds in the under 17s as well. We were second at the Europeans. I think we won the under 14s and were second in the under 12s, something like that. So it was really successful. We also won the Royal Welsh and it was really successful. And actually it was me as the trainer with two selectors, one from the north and one from the south, people that are specialists in that age group. And I think that was maybe.
Because as you said, having the top 5 riders that are like statistically the best, like never placing or never winning inter-counties, I guess is the same sort of thing.
Yeah, because I think a team needs to be balanced probably. Yeah. So you get to know people as well and how they ride. Because you can't have 5 people that go first in a race, and people do. They do have their position that they do.
Yeah, I mean, that 2018 trial kind of showed the kind of, again, the 5 in that team were the best 5 at the trial. That can't be argued on the day. I didn't have a great trial, and I think me and Guy rode a very similar trial. We had some really stupid mistakes, and I think me and Guy were probably both hoping to get in the team. And the way it ended up was that 4 people had a really good trial, and me and Guy had been a bit shit, frankly. And it came to the point where you might have probably wanted me and Guy in the team because of the balance, because me and Guy can do quite a lot of different roles. It ended up me and Guy shot ourselves in the foot by riding a bit shit, and then ended up not being in the role, and then he ended up.
I think it also, Belgium was, it was a tricky situation at the time as well. Yeah. We had a fairly disastrous thing happen in the under 17s, and it was awful. And that probably didn't help the thing. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to pick a team, because like some countries pick it first past the post, but I just felt that we needed to take some of the regulations out of it so that we got the best 5 people. Because I just feel that if you are riding well or you're at the top of your sport, then you should go, I suppose. And that's, and the whole committee is in agreement with that. And everybody, we have quite a big committee in England actually. And it was really good. And everybody seems to have enjoyed it. And we enjoyed the success of it, I think, as a country. So
I think I wasn't selected for a South African Worlds team this one time, which was crazy. I think I was the reserve rider and then someone dropped out.
Yeah. Wasn't that Worlds in South Africa?
No, I don't think so. It was in the trial.
It was Wales. It was for Wales.
It was for Wales, yeah. You didn't ride too well in the trial, and then so you didn't end up making the team. And it just said, we just actually can't afford to not have Kyle.
When was the last time Worlds in Wales?
2019.
2019, most recent.
Oh, yeah. So that time, you don't mean ages ago. I was thinking you meant one
2012,
a while back.
No, I hadn't done badly at South African champs or anything. I don't think.
No, you'd been one of our better riders at every world teams you'd ever ridden in. You'd done well at every SA individuals. You'd done well at SA pairs, and then you had one bad day at the trial.
Training session.
No,
you know what happened?
You also swore
my ex-girlfriend at the time. Yeah, so my ex-girlfriend at the time, she I don't know what happened. I think she was telling me that I had time, and I knew full well that I didn't have time. And I was like,
you may have sworn at it.
I think I told her to shut up. That was
the question is, did you have time?
And then
I know I didn't have time, but obviously she was trying to keep me chilled, which is totally acceptable. And I If Tom was like, Kyle, you've got time, I would have been like, oh yeah, this is an educated decision. But
Kyle, I think that's prime
she was new to
example.
games. Anyway, now she's my ex-girlfriend. I'm joking.
Actually, I could, going back to the trials, I can give a scoop from when our last podcast I was saying about how it used to be, and certain people would be on selectors, and it would be buying a horse and that person riding in their team, and that's how you got picked for England teams. Was how a lot of it was going to go in before it all changed quite recently. And in 2014, I think it was my very first year in Open, and obviously we had a really strong Barch team. We were winning quite a lot of shows that year. And me and Jack and Joe Garnett were the 3 English riders in that team. And Sadie would mean while I was riding in South Shropshire, again, we're one of the top teams that year. And there was, I think, 20 people were selected for this squad session. It was the first year of a trial. And I've always been quite like, pushing for trials. I always thought trials were the way to go. But that trial, they didn't. So there's 20 people in England only, and they didn't include Jack, they didn't include me, they didn't include Sadie. They put us in as individual riders and told us we weren't team riders, we were individual riders. And they put some, we'll say, obscure people into this 20-person trial, and that was kind of, I mean, that was the last year Jack then tried for England, because it was.
I have to say though, like, because I rode with Jack in the England team in 2012, I think, in Wales. But that 2014, was that one at Newark?
Yeah.
You remember? Yeah, because they had, like you say, probably missed a couple of names off, but the actual trial itself was amazing. Like, it was in the evening, and the standard was amazing. And we did win the Worlds that year. That was the last time I won it as a rider.
That was a really good Worlds win, I remember, because that was when it was you and Danny Spencer and Mitch and Chloe.
And Aaron Janie was the reserve.
It was kind of the trial, and that was the kind of like, even though as the trial, it still felt like, God, how is this still like not going in our way at that point? And then
we actually because the Worlds was in 2-part final. In the first part, under the floodlights again at Le Bond, we were 17 points behind Ireland after the first part, and in the second part we beat them by 19, so we won by 2.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a pretty good day for us, to be honest. That was really good, but the first part wasn't a very good day at all.
I remember I was at Cock of the North at the time riding whilst that was going on, and I remember hearing about like it was, you know, that they were on this comeback, and I was like, what the fuck? And it was on the Saturday night, wasn't it? Because I think we were all in the bar at Cock of the North.
Yeah, it was. I have to say, it was amazing. I loved it. But we had Aaron's pony was struggling a bit. It wouldn't go at times, so it was planting at the back of the ring, and then so he could get it going if he went first. But then obviously Chloe was kind of the first man with blue and stuff, so it was actually quite it was quite tricky in that way. But it was amazing to come back and win that. And actually, going back to what you asked me at the beginning, I'd won 4 world teams at that point, but all on my pony Red, and I'd never won it on anything else, and I won that one on Lizzie. So yeah, on a different pony, which was
that
good.
was our first Worlds Cup.
Was it at Le Bond?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in France.
It was really exciting to watch. It was great.
There was the first time the South Africans came, I remember, was a competition in Belgium. The world teams was in Belgium in 2007, and they had all these ponies corralled in this, like in one corral, like 5 ponies in this small area. It was bizarre. Yeah, I just remember meeting them there, but I can't remember who was in the team.
Yeah, it was a bunch of pony club kids that a lady sort of went on her own mission and trained up her own little pony club team. So the selection wasn't open to the whole country at all.
I remember them being slightly wayward, and they didn't really know. They didn't actually know all the races and stuff. So at the time in the world teams, like we won that one, but we were fairly good at the time, and we would qualify first, and then it would like we did at the Exoni show with the seeding thing, and then it would go down. So we were always next to South Africa because they were like lying last at the time. So they'd be in the next lane to us. Oh my God, they spent quite a lot of time in our lane, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Oh my God.
Because they also decided that they didn't want pool ponies. They didn't want games pool ponies because they didn't think they'd be able to vault on them. So they spent some time beforehand sourcing their own ponies. So they literally had like a string of show jumping ponies that they decided to take
you
the
can tell.
world. Yeah. And they were like the one, I think they had to gallop it around the ring like 7 times before they could
They were
actually
great
start.
fun though. I remember them being good fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm sure they had a fabulous time.
But having to worry about South Africans in your lane that's been a thing since.
That's not changed.
That's still a
Nothing's
problem
changed.
today.
Yes, you're quite right, to be honest.
Because our first world teams was actually in Canada in 2001.
Oh yeah.
So
that Belgium one's probably the only one you didn't do back then.
Yeah.
Of the ones you did, South Africa did go to.
Did you do Canada then, Meg?
Yeah, I was 12.
Did you? Amazing.
I wasn't, because Jim Dunn and with his Canadian crew had come out and they'd introduced the sport to gun clinics everywhere. And he had so he was going to select our team and then sort of help us through the whole thing. So he had selected me in his first thing. And then my dad said, no, I was way too young, so I wouldn't be going. But then a week before everybody left, one of the girls had a sick baby or something. So I got an emergency visa and then was heading off to Canada.
12
I also
years old.
hadn't been to any of the team trainings. I had no clue what was going on. But yeah, it was really good. We were
That's
like
really
watching
good.
the sessions before to learn what all the races were, like Windsor and Bank and all these races that we'd never seen before. Yeah, and then we were back then we went in 2003 to America.
Oh yeah.
And the Canadians lent us ponies and helped like transport them down to America for Worlds. And that was at the Kentucky Horse Park, which was really good.
I've never ridden in South Africa.
Canada.
Yeah, well, we'll host Nations again soon. Rory's going to come and help arrange and organize and run it.
Running the show. We just haven't told any of the SA committee yet.
You guys, are you guys going to be like? Are you able to be the South African team at Worlds and stuff then?
I don't know. It's tricky at the moment because we're listed as a red or like a high risk country at the moment because of the South African COVID variant. So if riders are to come over here, they have to quarantine for 2 weeks in a hotel at their own expense, which is £1,700, which is like the same cost for them to come over for Worlds. So it's like going to double the cost. It's going to be really unaffordable. But also I think that the quarantine is only actually available to people with a residence permit or like who are actually expected to be here for work or something. So I don't know if they could just come for.
So how many of you
ponies.
actually in the UK at the moment are South African riders?
Just 3.
Just the three.
Yeah, and then Mason and Holly are pretend South Africans, but I don't know if that'll be allowed at world teams. I mean, the thing is if we can't find, like if we couldn't get fake substitute South Africans, then we wouldn't be able to compete unless we just picked up some stray South Africans that don't do games.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Pete.
I know of one, but he's not replying to my messages.
That's it. Kyle's single, Pete, so if we can think of a woman to marry him before then.
Then we've got
she
a
can
full
like-
team. We can ride a 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kyle, you have to work fast.
Who could you marry?
Well, who do you think, Pete?
I'm not going to mention any names.
We'll go down your
How old are
list,
you,
Kyle.
Kyle?
No, I've got a list. I'm joking. I do. I don't.
And we're going
How
to
old
share
are
it
you,
with
Kyle?
everyone now.
They
Okay.
could all marry your brother as well, Kyle, and then you don't have to take it
Oh,
on.
that's true. They do like him.
Can your brother
The
ride a
females
horse?
do like him.
He can. He definitely couldn't do games, but he could ride a horse.
Okay, because I was going to suggest
He's available to marry, though.
Joe Locke was quite keen for your brother to marry Sades that time.
Yes.
Because-
He was.
He had, but Sades is married off with Josh. So
Eleanor.
Eleanor,
The
she'd be
main
perfect.
problem.
You could marry Eleanor because
You've got good.
then you've got Chris Wheeler on side. And that would then mean you can probably have a fake South African because he's in charge of IMGA.
I thought she was so strange because she sent me a message with her dad's. She sent me a message with her dad's video because I requested videos from everyone, and she was like, "Here's father's video," and I was like, "Who the fuck refers to their dad as father?" Like,
She does. They're called
what
mother
kind
and
of
father.
strange? Oh, so this is so strange. But apparently, this is just how it goes. That's just what everyone calls him.
Yeah, father. Yeah.
Speaking
Yeah,
of Chris
no, I know.
Wheeler, I think he's the one person in the world that I have never met anyone that doesn't like him. I think everyone likes Chris Wheeler. I don't think I know anyone.
Rory, what are you saying about me?
What?
So there must be someone that doesn't like you, Pete.
There's quite a lot, I'd imagine.
To be fair, I haven't heard. Pete's probably less on the. There's plenty. I mean, I'm brothers with Jack. I know people that don't like Jack. I mean, there's a lot of them.
I like Jack.
I like
Well
Jack.
done.
He still hasn't sent me his video though, nor is your mum. They're slacking.
I think Mum's a lot more like that as well. We used to be, but particularly when we were a couple of years into Berkshire, we were very much not the most popular bunch, us lot, were we, Pete? In our earlier years. No.
It depends.
We were for our first year, when we were this new team on the block, completely brand new, everyone was quite supportive. We won quite a lot. And then after that, we were less popular.
Last year, you were getting your popularity back.
And then what happened?
I was also waiting for the crash.
Well, you just never know, dear. You never know what's going to happen next.
It was the weirdest thing, riding in that inter-counties final and having... So there was us, South Shropshire and Leicester, second, third and fourth. And for sort of the previous few years, obviously those three teams are the ones that have sort of won it the last few years running, sort of on and off between the three. And it was very weird between us three fighting for second. That was kind of like, what's happened to us all here? We're all Northumberland obviously ended up winning it fairly comfortably in the end. No thanks to Peter and his team for letting them in.
Well, yeah.
You were looking so proud until you realised that you guys messed up.
We did not want that. Inter-counties was not fun. We had the hardest bloody heats and just everything went against us. Even our French stayed in France. I mean, we were, terrible that was. But
talking about hard heats, and you mentioned just now about the way you seeded your competition, and you're always bragging about how brilliantly it was, and everyone was so happy with it. There's one team that us. I don't think we were terribly stoked at the seeding. It didn't work out for us. I don't think.
Did it not? Did I seed you?
I don't know. I just know that we got shafted.
Oh God! You see, that's what at the Exoni show.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure it'll be better this time now that we've had a year. I mean,
well, you've made your mark now, Kyle. You see, this is where it's got to,
And we also could have just ridden better. I mean, if we just won every race, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, that's true. I think when you do the seeding and whatever, you always end up with like dark horses that are unseeded, but they're people that have got potential to cause an upset.
That was a very positive way of putting that, Pete. Thank you.
Well, yeah, but you guys are that for sure. Or you were that last year. I think if I was going to seed now, I was actually thinking about it the other day because we have got a really good entry for the Exoni show and whatever. But so it'll be seeded in the Open. I think Shropshire South probably have to be the top seed just because they've been together a long time. I know Rory will probably be itching to say Berkshire, but they probably be number two, shall we say? But you guys, I'd say you're up there in the top 8 because I think I did 8 seeds. But depends how many heats we run and whatever and how it works anyway. But it's actually quite interesting, I think, this year coming because there's quite a few new teams and people that are, it's quite exciting, like random teams as well. But ones that I think will be quite good. I don't know. I just think, it's always, I quite like a new year because you see all these new people and you think, oh, that's quite exciting, bit different.
I like. It's always that's always a fun. I mean, it used to be obviously you go to Spring Champs very first weekend of April and at Shrewsbury, and that was the kind of like, oh, they're riding with them and they're riding with them, and obviously that's changed enough for years since Spring Champs changed dates to the end of the month. But it's always weird sort of seeing new teams together. I mean, we're lacking the gossip from last year. Really, usually there's big team fallouts for whatever reason for a couple of the teams.
Yeah, but we didn't really do an awful lot last year.
I mean, if anyone managed to fall out last year, it was impressive because they only got to see each other about 2 times or whatever. Yeah.
I think there might be a few people that have fallen out in lockdown. Christ, spending a lot of time with just certain people must be pretty tricky. I think. I was reading an article earlier about some guy that was saying that his family, like they were trying to book their family holiday for the summer, and then he suddenly realised that none of them actually wanted to go on holiday because they don't want to be together once they're allowed out. They want to like have a bit of time apart. So yeah, it's been long, this lockdown, hasn't it? Since Christmas, it's been really long. I think it's affected everyone. Like, yeah.
Well, when a Zoom call on a Wednesday evening at 7 is your biggest social event of the week, something might be a bit wrong with your life. So, yeah.
I hope I haven't said anything too untoward and been too rude, Kyle.
No, you've done very well, even when we've put you in a couple of sticky situations. Even Rory tried to put you in a sticky situation talking about him and Jack not making the trials, and you came back.
He wasn't in charge then, but I just remember that was the kind of year when I was like, well, what's the fucking point? And that was also the year where Jack went to run.
Yeah, but I don't think I mean, you can put all this in as well, Carl. I think, like I say, there isn't a right way necessarily, because I think a different country, it suits different people away. Like, because there's countries that have loads of riders, and then there's countries that don't have so many riders and whatever. But my thing is that I believe that the best people should go. Yeah. But it's not necessarily the best 5 individual riders. It's the best 5 that make up a team. And
for sure.
And actually, like, that's just my opinion. Like, if people don't like it, then, you know, but that's just what I think. But actually,
it's hard to argue that.
Or not vote for you, and they vote for you, so obviously they are liking it. But on that though, I remember last week I was speaking about our Europeans team that had all the issues, and like
oh my God, yeah,
just picking the 5 best people that do it in a mug race, whatever. It's about also picking those kind of personalities. I think the personality in that team, I don't think that if you had one individual that wasn't the individual they were, I don't know if we could have.
I have to say, take prime example. I remember a good few years ago, and he would, like, we obviously get on like House of Fire, but take Danny Spencer and me as 2 riders. Yeah. We were at like in a situation for getting in the Ingeteam. Yes, that 2014 we both were. Now, Danny, 9 times out of 10, you take mug shuffle, he would beat me every single time at the trial. If we went to the World Teams final, you'd probably, as a trainer, if you wanted to make sure, you'd be more likely to put me in the race than you would Danny. And he would say exactly the same, just for the pure fact that I'm probably more likely at the time to get it right than go flat out, if you know what I mean. If you needed to catch up the points and whatever, then maybe you would put him in over me. But if you see what I mean, that's just how I think. Like, so it does make a difference to be a team rider and have a good balance in a team. Does that make sense?
100%.
Absolutely.
I think what's with Pete and the current, also his current sets, they have to get a fair shout as well with the people doing that, because they I think they got it really right in 2019, and hopefully they do again this year. I mean, they might have a harder job this year because obviously it's going to be quite bang wallop your straight.
Who's that? What do you mean, the committee and the selectors?
Committee and the selectors, yeah. Because I think the issue I had with it prior to the current bunch in was that selectors particularly, there was always 1 or 2 in the mix which you knew were going to give a certain person a spot. And to be fair, there was never anyone awful in these teams, but there was also always people that knew, no matter how they rode, because of who they were getting in a team. So suddenly, rather than fighting for a spot for 1 of 5 spots, you're fighting for 1 of 2 or 3 spots, because you know that 2 people are going to get in a team. That's just how it used to be. There was always people. I mean, I think it was actually worse in the younger age groups when I was. I mean, like I say last week, I
have to say now though, like if you look at it, yeah. So obviously I trained the open team, and then I think I had Sheila and Paul, and like as a combination, obviously there's 1 from the north, 1 from the south, and we had a good, we'd meet up, chat and whatever. But going to the younger age groups, Joe Morris, for example, is the selector in the under 15s. Her team are by far the best in that age group when it was happening. Of course, that so she's a specialist in knowing what she's doing in that group and with those people, and she knows, exactly what to do. Whereas I'd be going in a bit blind in the under 15s. I do know some of the kids only because I know what I'm doing when I'm putting their name on a saddlecloth or something.
At the moment, you've got kind of top trainers in as well. Like, opens, you've got Sheila and Paul who have won millions of things. and now your selectors, like you say, you got, I know you got Joe and Claire Leeson's in there somewhere as well, and she was selecting, and they're obviously people that have trained for a while. I think that's very important, having them in there that have got experience of what you want in a team to train, really. So I think that's but yeah, no, I'm happier now. I remember 20.
As long as we keep Rory happy, we're all good.
Well, actually, 2017, I didn't put my name down for England. And that was kind of when I thought I wasn't going to bother again, because I had ridden for England before. And we'd won the Europeans in 2015. And then 2016, the world teams, I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it. It was really toxic, I found, riding with certain people around. And none of the riders, by the way, ride of the five.
Where was that? I wasn't.
It was when Joe Garnett didn't get picked, and I immediately wasn't very happy at the time, because obviously A with Bart's team, but B, that was the year we had a really solid year in 2016 where we won a lot of shows, and he didn't get picked, and it was so. I mean, that's fine. I got over that. We went there, and it was that was the year when I was kind of straight away felt a bit scapegoated, and that was literally all I heard was when I came back and I hit a bending pole down. To be fair, it was the first race, and you don't want to hit a bending pole down the first race, but that was literally the only mistake I made in the 2-part final over whatever 25 races. And there were other riders in the team that made more, and I don't want to blame anyone else, but it was just all I heard coming back from there was people saying, "Oh, he blew it for them. He lost his head." It's like, I made one mistake. What are these people saying, kind of thing?
Are you justifying your one mistake, Rory?
I know. That's it. So I just at that point I was like, I want to ride for my country, and I honestly love riding for England. I feel like you get that kind of extra buzz. But at that point, I was like, "Fuck it!" I didn't put my name down the following.
I think to add to it though, like, you're never going to please everyone, and I think whatever system is in place for whatever sport or whatever, obviously we're talking about games, but like, there's always going to be people that say, "Oh, it should have been such and such," or "Oh, they rode a really good trial," or "Oh, they have been riding really well at the Spring Champs, but they weren't so good in that session at the England Champs," or do you know what I mean? And I think that's difficult, and you've got to take it on the chin. And actually, and most parents think their kids are amazing. Of course they do, because they're going to support them. And I think that's tricky in a way. You've got to have a bit of a thick skin in that way. But I think you can get it as right as you can, and most people are kind of happy. You can see by how many complaints and backlash you might get when you're there. But the Europeans 2019 stuck out for me in that we had a really good team morale. It was a really nice group of people who were from totally different, Rory was one of them. There was Ellie Tutt, but she wasn't originally in, but we had so many pony problems. We had Sades, who ended up then not being in, and then she came back in, and the whole thing was just carnage. But Katie, Dawson Spencer, Eddie, Greg, who was riding in Shropshire South, but he fit really well. I mean, Greg's amazing as a team rider, individual. I think Greg did 104 races that weekend because he did the individuals as well, because he wasn't supposed to be riding the team, and he made 3 mistakes or 4 mistakes in total in 104 races. That's pretty good. And he
pretty good.
And he was pretty good. I will reckon. I love Greg. He's fantastic. He was so funny as well, really good fun. As a trainer and as my job as England chairman, it's really nice people like that who are, and I'm not just bigging up Greg, the whole team are great, but people who are willing to listen and actually want to get entered in and enjoy it. And really, I think it was great, and actually then we went on to the Worlds with a bit of confidence in us. And the team was a bit different because obviously we'd had the problem with Eddie's pony, which was really sad, but it's back now, and that's great. And he did all the work through the heats anyway, didn't he, Rory? And the first part of the final he rode, it was only in the last bit. So, and then Sades had to come in on Livy's pony, whatever. So, but then Nessa was back for the world teams, all very complicated. But we went to Wales, and actually, to be honest, they were really, really good as well, the ones in Wales. And the team morale was amazing as well. It's just a shame we didn't get to carry on last year and try again, but obviously we didn't. So hopefully this year, I don't know, we'll see.
Crack on.
I'm supposedly the trainer at the moment, so hopefully we're going to be able, as long as the world teams find finds a destination, we I hope.
We might have to get Rory to do a struck competition in place of it if it doesn't happen.
What for whoever can come championships?
Exactly.
Where fake South Africans are allowed.
Yeah,
I think you'll get loads of people because there's there's loads of people wanting to ride.
That's it. No, I bet that's going to be an absolute pain in the arse to pick this year with the world teams, because that's going to be. I was saying to these guys, it's usually the opposite way around. Usually, you've got everyone for Europeans and no one for world teams. It's usually world teams is America or whatever, and you've got a lot less choice. Whereas everyone's going to want to do world teams with it being in the country. But no, I think I'm very happy about it. Now, obviously, I was disappointed that year not to make the world teams team. But at the same time, it was the people that were picked. I was like, fair enough. Everything was justifiable about it. Whereas years prior, the reason I got from because remember when they started trying to get selectors to give reasons for their selections, kind of thing, which is kind of fair enough. It's like fair enough. You kind of should probably also do that. And the reason we got one year was through the whoever the head of the selection person that was that year. I won't name names. And the reason we got that me and Jack weren't in the team was because one selector said they wanted Jack and one selector said they wanted me. So the compromise was we won't have either of them. that was the explanation we got, because I just come into open at that point, and that was the explanation we got for not being involved in the squad session. It was like, oh god, right, okay, this is a bit of a. But it's much better now, and like Pete said, I think the way that they pick the teams and they're hopefully going to continue picking the teams for the future years, I think is the best way to go. And I think everyone kind of knows now. I mean, particularly with it being quite a time scale with English champs, spring champs, and then obviously you want the teams picked end of the month, pretty much, don't you? Of April was what I think you were saying.
You got to have enough time, especially what with the whole Brexit and things now. We need to have enough time to book and what we're doing, and
that's
from the people that do the kit. We need a bit of time.
Exactly, yeah. To get the top, it's only kit for it. But I think that's quite a good. It's kind of fair enough. If you don't ride well at both those shows, I think you can easily see why you wouldn't make a team, kind of thing. And I think that's quite a good way to prepare for it for those wanting to get into England teams, is to just ride your best at those two shows. And then if you do, you give yourself.
Well, I think just riding at your best every time you go out. Really, I mean, you're going to take into account how that person. What am I trying to say? Not just how they ride, but how they conduct themselves as well. I think, and actually, yeah.
That was Kyle's problem.
How many cherry beers they can?
With his girlfriend, everybody, or you won't get picked.
With his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
I am still here.
Pete, when you were talking about kits, I wanted to ask if you would maybe, if South Africa's allowed to attend Worlds, if you would do our kit maybe for us.
Of course.
You can think of a multicolored, cool design.
Yeah, I'll get Eddie to do a design for you guys and see if you like it. And if you don't like it, then you can tell us.
You can blame Eddie.
Well, we're usually pretty low on time, so I think whatever, we'll take what we can get.
Yeah, we can put some really cool stuff on it.
Yeah.
On the shirt.
Yeah, we usually like to be like colourful and.
Yeah, you've got good colours as well, though, haven't you?
Yeah, we have all the colours.
Gotta have a shirt that people want to trade you with at the end of the competition.
Exactly.
yeah, that is so true.
Years ago, I've still got it.
Yeah,
I have a South African shirt here, actually.
Oh. You should have worn.
I think from 2007.
Really?
I don't know what the shirts look like.
I think so. God, I don't know if I'd be able to find it. I'd probably be gone for ages. Yeah.
Mason had tried to say something a minute ago.
Mason almost jumped in.
I can't remember. I think it was about selections. I think it's much fairer now, especially for like your younger age groups, trying to like people that are trying to break through to riding for England. So I think if you ride well, you'll get noticed. Whereas if it's more of a selection thing, I think even if you got through to a squad session or a selection, if everybody rode sort of a similar trial and there was no massive standout, people like the selectors would rightfully choose the riders that have done it before because they know they're safer, they can cope with the atmosphere and things. Whereas now I think if you just ride well and you're noticed, then you'll get in, which I think is much fairer than because I think a lot of the time, it's even at the trials, there were people that, like, there might be 8
People
riders
that were, like,
ride
overlooked.
similar, and they can't really choose because 8 riders rode similar. So they would choose the 5, 6, one they've done it before because you know that they can do it. Whereas I think now they if you ride well, you notice, and then you deserve to ride and be chosen.
Yeah, you mean without, like, people that were overlooked and whatever before because they, no, I agree.
I felt like that used to be kind of one of the sort of things with the old guard that was sort of always in charge of England teams, was that they rarely would put new people in, and if they did, it would be kind of 1 or 2 at a time, and rarely a whole new team. And then 2015, I think.
I don't know though. Like, yeah, I can see that, but England over the years have had fairly good results. Let's put it.
Oh yeah, it can't be argued.
So, I mean, I'm not just saying because obviously I've been really successful riding in England, but like I think, yeah, like I say, there's different ways of doing it, obviously, but it just depends on the year, depends on the country, depends on a lot of things. But this is how we wanted to do it at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. As the committee, we sort of said,
I think it 100% works. Once you got the right people around the committee, you got the right selectors. And the thing is, I know the open selectors with Sheila and Paul, and they're both winning trainers. You're a winning trainer. Between the 3 of you, your only motive is to pick a winning team. I don't see any kind of bias between the 3 of you to anyone. Because you're all friends with all the riders, and you're all. I think it's a really good bunch of people at the minute.
Yeah.
On that positive note, I think MGA England is super stoked to have you, and I know we all are. And thanks so much for joining us on our podcast.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, everyone.
It's been fun.
Super. I've enjoyed it.
Hey guys, if you'd like to get in contact with us about anything that we've spoken about during this podcast, feel free to contact us at Pony Games Podcast. Otherwise, I'll try my best to link everyone's details below. Thanks so much.